You're listening to Not So Live from Asteroid G, stealing a helicopter and getting revenge for our dead wife. I'm your host, Mike Finkelstein.
Your buddy Mike the Ghoul here, getting progressively more naked with each opening crawl we get.
Right, my God, man.
We're not even hiding it anymore.
No! No! I noticed that! We're talking two James Bond movies today as we approach
Mm,
the end of the Roger Moore era. We are discussing For Your Eyes Only and then Octopussy, one of the
yes.
two of which I legitimately enjoyed.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not the more famous of the two, which is kind of funny.
It was very interesting when I
Yeah.
knew these two were up. I was like, okay,
Mhm.
I've obviously seen these at some point, but
Yeah,
like
you
my
have.
but like rewatching them, I'm like, oh cool. I remember Octopussy being good. I don't really remember For Your Eyes Only. And then I was like, this is moderately a better movie than anything I've seen Roger Moore in up till now. And then
I know.
then the other one, but
Yeah,
we'll
no.
get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, it's kind of weird well, spoilers for what we're about to discuss in detail, but
Mm,
I found For Your Eyes Only to be a very modest and very well-made James Bond spy thriller that just so
mm,
happened to have Roger Moore in it. He's actually decent in the movie, even if he
mhm.
is already getting a little too old to be in these. But he's decent in the movie. He accounts himself fairly well, and the
Mhm.
film handles its content without all the usual gags and slide whistles and everything else that the company Eon Productions apparently felt they had to do for the goofy
Mm,
Roger Moore era, which I will never understand.
I
But I
don't get it
really
either.
rather liked For Your Eyes Only. And then we
Mhm.
got to Octopussy, and it was so much worse.
It
Like,
was
it tried, yeah.
right back to that racism that is so thick in the movies from time to time,
Sexual
and
assault, stupid
yeah.
jokes, everything that made The Man with the Golden Gun so much worse.
Mhm.
And that was actually kind of tolerable. This one really kind of isn't. But everything that
Right.
made The Man with the Golden Gun so much worse is fully on display here once
Yeah.
more, and it's just painful.
It really is. Credit at least to Roger Moore at the end of the day for not, channeling his inner Watterson. The older I get, they stay the same age because these
Yeah.
Bond girls, they just keep getting younger and younger, and he just looks
No.
like their grandfather now, not even like an uncle that shouldn't be going on a date with them.
Yeah, no, it's pretty bad. For Your Eyes Only, after an opening sequence where Bond gets his revenge on Blofeld, even though Blofeld isn't actually
Blow
done by name,
Blofeld.
yeah, but
Blofeld.
clearly done because the rights to Blofeld and all of Spectre reverted over to what's his face that wanted to go make the Thunderball remake, and they couldn't have Blofeld anymore or Spectre, so they just kill an unnamed Blofeld off in an opening sequence just for the hell of it before we all move on.
That is
Which
very campy, by the way.
it was not that great, no, I will agree. Thankfully, the movie settles down
Yeah.
afterwards. But
Yes.
functionally, what we then learn is that the British have a coordination ship disguised as a fishing trawler, and it coordinates all the British ships in the area, and it's a central hub. It knows where all the British ships are, it has the tech to keep track of everything, and if
Mhm.
this tech is lost somehow, then the British fleet would be in ruins.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then, somehow, someone figures out it's a fishing trawler, mines it, the ship blows up, and the guys who are supposed to blow up the tech within the ship don't, so that sunken ship has the tech. Bond is
Yeah.
called in because the deep sea diving team that's supposed to investigate this wreck is killed. The only one left alive is the dude's daughter. She decides to help Bond. They go investigate, all while we get a back and forth as Bond tries to figure out who the bad guy is and thinks he knows who he is, but doesn't know who he is. But eventually he figures out who the villain is, and they go after him, and they stop him from actually taking the device which he stole off of Bond and selling it to the KGB because he's clearly a defector. It's a very twisty movie, and as far as espionage films are concerned, it actually works pretty well.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
bad. They're
no,
very your notes say like a lot of Cold War vibes in here, and you're
yeah,
starting to really get that. We don't trust anybody. Communism is at your gates, kind of thing. So
yeah.
the movie plays on its time frame and what's going on in the world very well.
Yeah, and between this one and Octopussy, and then before that we had The Spy Who Loved Me with the KGB showing up prominently
Mm,
there as well, we get a
yeah.
real sense that the movies are shifting from using Spectre as their
Mhm.
stand-in for the evil of the world, and just being like, well, we can have the KGB here, and sometimes they're bad, and
Mhm.
sometimes they're good, and there's nuance to it. And you know what? I appreciate that nuance.
Yeah.
Sometimes Bond is allied with the KGB, sometimes he's standing in opposition, and that's kinda how the politics of the world worked at the time. It's the
Yeah.
most realistic thing about these fucking movies is that you never know what the KGB is up to.
Yeah. Very true. Very,
Yeah.
very true.
And they're not generic villains, and I think that makes this film stronger.
Yes. Yes.
Honestly, that's the problem with this movie is I liked it enough that I don't have a lot to bitch about, even if I did write a lot of notes.
You sure did. I'm reading your notes as I'm going. I'm like, he's not writing a lot of not liking,
No,
aside from like,
no,
the obvious points that you see
yeah,
in these movies that are 40 plus years old at this point. But
yep,
overall, as a story, this was one of the better ones we've seen in the Roger Moore era. And
yeah, probably the
surprising
best of
because
it, yeah.
I would say so. And like, I always have a soft spot for Moonraker and all that because of Jaws. But like, this was a movie that I had very low expectations for that really hit like on Your Majesty's Secret Service to me. Like, wow, this was one of the better Bond movies that I didn't remember. I didn't give it enough credit for.
If this one had shown up in the Lazenby era, or if like it waited a
Yeah.
little bit and gone for Brosnan or Dalton, I wouldn't have suspected at all that this was meant for Roger Moore. This is a
Yeah.
perfectly decent, real Bond movie. What is
Yeah.
it doing in the Roger Moore era?
I don't know. I mean, I guess they hit that point in, Sir Alfred Broccoli's works to bring it out and the short stories of all that. So
I guess.
I don't know. I don't know. But it was a good movie in a relatively weak era of films, which
Yeah,
is, I mean, at least it was a midpoint that kind of got your hopes up until
yeah, until it drops back down again for the next
yeah,
two. But
yeah.
we'll get that. So yeah, that
Yep.
opening sequence with Blofeld, he comes in to attack Bond after Bond visits Tracy Bond's gravestone, which I appreciate them continuing the
Yep.
references to her.
Hmm.
He then gets Bond trapped in a helicopter, and Blofeld has control of the helicopter and decides to have fun spinning James Bond around for a little while when the rest was simply going, crash the helicopter into the ground, you fucking moron.
Typical fucking bad guy got me monologuing bullshit, right?
Right?
Like
It was so like I'm sitting there going, dude, you've got him in the air helicopter for 5 minutes. You're letting him wander around and try and take control of it from the outside. Why aren't you just crashing the thing already?
I don't know, man. Very, very strange decisions. But I mean, what else are you gonna get from a Bond villain, I guess, at the time?
Yeah, but that is what I agree with you. That is the campy part of this movie right up front. Thankfully, we got it out of the way. Then we get into
Yep.
the main movie, which does start weekly with the song For Your Eyes Only, which is boring.
Yeah, just
It's a boring song.
it's not very good.
No, it's
Maybe
not.
that's why they threw a little more extra nudity in there for
There's
us.
a
I don't know.
there's a lot of nudity in these opening credits, which is surprising. Like you can see a lot that you shouldn't be seeing in a PG movie. I will say that much.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
it also has Sheena Eaton, the performer of the song, actually appearing on screen, which is the only time in a Bond movie that's ever happened.
yeah.
General Gogol shows up, as we said. He was
Mhm.
in Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. He's here, and he's an Octopussy, and I think he even shows up in the last one. I looked it up. He gets a 5 movie track here for this continuity of the KGB, and then at that point, the Berlin Wall falls, and I guess they're like, well, we can't use the KGB anymore. Bye, Gogol. Oh, well.
Yeah. Oh, he always treaded that line very well for me in the movies of like,
Yeah,
to your point, like, is he a good guy? Is he a bad
it's well
guy? I can't
performed.
really tell. Well,
Yeah.
well done by him.
And
Yeah.
also good that, unlike other characters in the films who constantly switch, like the 8 different versions of Felix Leiter that we see over the years, it's the
Yeah.
same actor performing Gogol all 5 times. So it's nice continuity of the Roger Moore era for once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Carolyn Bouquet, who played Melina Havelock, our Bond girl for this film, at the time of the film's release, she was 24 and Roger Moore was 54. And that's already a bad May December kind of relationship, and that's still good in comparison to the math that we're going to get eventually.
That math ain't mathing for me right now. At least he doesn't come off as creepy in the movie like
No,
that,
there are some moments where you're sitting there going, Melina, why are you with this dude? But at least there's some decent chemistry. The other one that shows up, Lynn Holly Johnson, who plays BB Doll, she
Mm.
was 23 at the time of this film's release, which is a year younger. And
We're not getting
Bond,
any better.
yeah, Bond here is like, I don't actually want to do anything with you. You're a little young for me, girl. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of funny watching him shove her off when Connery would already be up inside her before she even finished like saying her first sentence, you know?
I know.
Yeah.
God.
Oh,
I could see him do something like some cube magnetic things with their ice skates or something
yeah.
like James Bond. Like, oh my
Yeah,
god.
there'd be a slide whistle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that terrible. Melina
Oh
shows
my
up and
god.
saves Bond's ass and proves herself to be a very effective person out in the field. So, of course, naturally, Bond has to take over and basically relegate her to the sidelines for the rest of the movie.
We cannot have a strong female protagonist yet.
Not at all.
They don't exist in these Bond movies yet.
Not in the Roger Moore era. I don't think we actually get that until Michelle Yeoh shows up in Pierce Brosnan's films. Like, you're just
Yeah,
not allowed to have it.
yeah,
It's
it's
pretty
weird.
bad. Bond warns Melina about seeking revenge on the men that orchestrated her parents' death, And she
Yeah.
says, "You wouldn't understand. You're English. You don't seek revenge," which would have worked so much better if we hadn't seen at the start of the movie Bond go and get revenge against Blofeld for killing Tracy Bond. I'm like, I feel like that sequence probably should have been in a different movie if you want to sell the idea of dig two graves when you seek revenge, you know?
I mean, it's like that's the moment where like I'm waiting for like the fourth wall break of like turning to the camera, like
Yeah,
really, kind of, but it just never happens.
don't listen to what I'm saying, guys. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's
yeah,
pretty bad. I did
yeah.
appreciate that when Bond is doing his regular Q lab check-in, which is stupid. The Q lab
Mhm,
check-ins are dumb. But to
yeah.
get into the section where they can start working on the case, Q has to enter a special code into his door, and it's the opening notes to Nobody Does It Better. And I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
that's dumb, but I kind of like it.
I
It's
can
kind of
believe that's
okay.
something Q would do, right? Like
Yeah.
Q seems goofy enough to do something like
It's a
that,
bit
you
of a
know?
fourth wall break. Like Q knows James Bond's theme songs, but at the same time, it's I'm going to accept it because it's at least a nice little reference.
Yeah, it's a nice little
Yeah.
touch.
Yeah. There's a long chase sequence through the 1980 Winter Olympics because BB is a figure skater who has
Yeah,
hopes of being in the Olympics. So there's a
mhm,
long 1980s Winter Olympics sequence from the
yeah,
biathlon through the ski jump and then to the luge, which is kind of fun, but it does go on for like 10 minutes and drags the movie down after a little
mhm,
while. And
yeah,
also, it's very repetitive considering we got almost all of those same sports during From Her Majesty's Secret Service during its
yeah.
run of the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe they felt like there was something they gotta keep going on for a while, but this
Mm,
did drag, like you said.
it did.
Like, the
Second
cool,
time's not the charm.
yeah, like the ski jump was kind of neat, and the biathlons, with guns, it's always kind of cool. But like,
Yeah.
mm,
It didn't really work, and I would have appreciated if they'd just done something else
the
instead.
ski chase scene at the beginning of the other movie when they're chasing him through the Alps and all that, and he Spy
Yeah.
Love Me, yeah, literally the last movie we watched. But like, yeah, that was a better sequence chase than this
Mhm,
was.
mhm. Yeah, no, this was too long. It didn't feel nearly as interesting. And
Yeah,
maybe in part that's because Bond is 54.
yeah.
Just very old. We do get actually a third Bond girl in this movie. That is the
Mhm.
Countess von Schlaff, who's played by Cassandra Harris, who is at least more appropriate in the age pairing because she was a whole 33 years old, only 20 years younger.
Math is better.
Still the wrong
At lea
generation, but you know
Yeah,
what?
at least
I'm
she knows what her favorite alcoholic drink is by now, probably.
right. She's still not experimenting in college and figuring herself out. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
has that quiet lesbian phase she doesn't tell anybody about kinda thing, like
Wow. Wow. I did notice during the sequence where, of course, the one age appropriate Bond girl dies, we get a young Charles Dance showing up, he looks
Yes.
so young.
Little baby face, right?
Yes.
Like, oh my god, I love Charles Dance too, he's fantastic. What a great actor he is.
There's a good double cross halfway into the film that works within the plot. The guy who we
Mm,
thought was a good guy is actually a bad guy. The guy we were set up to be the bad guy is a good guy. The film gets twisty and it actually makes the film better. And I kind of
yeah,
wish more of the Bond films in general, and especially during the Roger Moore movies, had this kind of twisty, non-linear plotting.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it would make it I mean, they kinda try to get this in later Bond movies and stuff like that, but, like, this was a good twist that I didn't remember coming either, and I
Hmm.
was like, "Oh, he didn't telegraph this very well,"
Yeah.
Like, this was a good little shock
It
surprise, and
was.
I appreciated
It
that.
worked in context really nicely.
Yeah.
A bad part, the hardest part of the film to believe, is that a 54-year-old man could run up 10 flights of stairs. There's a chase sequence with a car driving up a mountain, which I'm gonna ask, where the fuck was that car going if it was trying to get away from him, if it's going
No idea.
up a mountain? And then Bond is hoofing it uphill on stairs, and I'm sitting there going, dude, after one flight of stairs, I'm winded, and I'm like 10
I
years
know.
younger than you. How are you making it up these stairs?
I know, it's crazy, right? Like, the wind on this man is phenomenal.
Yeah, that is some bad plotting right there.
Yeah,
And again,
yeah.
where the fuck is that car going? Like, is
I
there a helicopter up there? We never know. It's really
it's
stupid.
a weird sequence,
Yeah.
yeah.
Those are minor quibbles in what I think is otherwise a very decent movie. Moments like that I could laugh at because I'm like, 10 flights of stairs. He's not making that.
Mhm.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, yeah,
No, but the
yeah,
movie's pretty good. It's pretty good.
it's really not a bad film
No.
in the spread of, like, what we've seen to this point,
Yeah.
the Bond is campy, Bond is fun, but this was a genuinely good Bond movie,
Mm-hmm.
which we haven't gotten. A lot of the ones have just been kinda crappy and just kinda, like, fun for the Bond part of being fun, but this was genuinely good.
Yeah.
This was probably top 3 or 4 that we've seen so far for me. Like this
Yep.
has gotten up there, and I was surprised about that.
Yeah, no, this is definitely, like, near the top of my list for the Roger Moore era, and it's probably in
Yeah,
top 5 for me of Bond in general.
I was
We'll
thinking that. Yeah.
we'll recap era and total list, I think, after we get to the end of the Roger Moore era, but right
Mhm.
now, this is a pretty high up one because it's pretty
Yeah.
good.
It's a
Yeah,
strong. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
strong contender.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the follow-up, Octopussy, is not. Before we get
Yeah.
into the second film, though, we do want to take a moment and thank our sponsors for the week, Delos Inc. Have you ever wanted to be a cowboy riding across the Old West? Or a samurai battling for their lives in Edo, Japan? What about being a knight, shining resplendent before you head to the joust that might just be your doom? There's a world of possibilities with Delos, makers of the famous Westworld. You can be whoever you want, go wherever you want, and the story unfolds before you. Find your adventure before your adventure comes for you. Delos Inc. Experience the possibilities. And thank you to our sponsors. I gotta be honest with you, I just watched Octopussy yesterday. Like,
Mhm.
literally. And I
Yeah.
already don't remember how most of the plot comes together because it is so forgettable. There's like a circus and someone dies, and there's a
Yeah.
fake Fabergé egg, and then they use it to steal the real Fabergé egg because there's some plotting about a rogue faction of the KGB making these gems to sell these gems, but also to like import a nuclear bomb onto a West Berlin America base. Like
It's a lot.
it's a lot of plot for what amounts to basically 15 minutes of story stretched over 2 hours. Like the
Yeah.
actual plot itself can be summarized in a couple of note cards, but the film faffs around for a good hour and a half just to get
Oh yeah.
there.
It sure does. You know,
Oh,
there's some dragon in this that just
yes.
keeps going, and
Oh,
there's forgettable people in this movie that I just don't care about these
no.
characters, and it's just like,
No.
I mean, they tried hard, like throwing a new henchman at us and everything that's supposed to be imposing and all that, but like it just was not good.
No,
The
there's
whole,
nothing
the
to
whole,
this.
I hate the stupid like bait and switch shit in movies too, where like I'm gonna switch the real for the fake and then put the fake back and track that one because I really wanted to take that. Like I
And it
hate
doesn't
that
amount
shit.
to
It's so
anything.
cliche. It's
Yeah,
so
it
cliche.
does. He steals the egg at an
Mhm.
auction so that the fake egg goes back to the guys to like somehow foil their plans, but then he lets them steal the real egg afterwards so that they can then have the egg and not do anything. Like, I don't. Yeah, so much of the plot is just a line of conveniences. It's like we said with Disclosure Day. It's an and then movie. James Bond
Yeah.
shows up and then something happens, so James Bond can go over here. There's not really any espionage. There's not really much in the way of like tight connective tissue. He meets the
Yeah.
villain almost immediately, knows that they're the villain, and then just kind of follows the villain around the world for 2 hours. And the most
Yeah.
interesting thing is when there's kind of sort of a double cross between the villain and the villain's partner, Octopussy, but
Yeah.
that's not even really well written because Octopussy's barely a character in this film.
She really isn't for having
No.
the name in the title crawl. I
Yeah,
mean,
no.
she's a very forgettable part of this movie, and I thought like she would have a much bigger part. Like Pussy Galore from many movies ago had a much bigger part in her movie, and you don't even know about her for 2/3 of it.
Right?
So
Yeah. No,
I don't
she
know.
it's like they introduce all these weird characters and everything to justify having a circus set piece that
Mhm.
doesn't even need to be there. Like, don't get me wrong. They use the circus trains as a cover to import the nuclear bomb across West German, East German lines, which makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
That was a decent bait and switch fake out. But
Mhm.
again, that's like a tiny 5 minutes of the movie for that
Right.
one actual key plot line when the rest of the movie barely relates to it all. The biggest relation we get is that Octopussy invests in circuses for reason.
I I don't know, maybe she really enjoys trapeze. I'm not really
I mean,
sure.
don't get me wrong. Back in the 70s and 60s, circuses were probably much bigger than they are now. Now you
Mm.
think about going to the circus and you're like, that's like a $2 ticket and you're bored for an hour. Like, it's not. We make our own fun now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I can watch a circus on YouTube for free, like,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
it doesn't have the same appeal. Circuses are a dying art. They might have
yeah,
been bigger then, and maybe getting thrilled about a circus was a big deal. It's one of those plot points that probably made sense then that
yeah.
really doesn't make sense now. And I'm just sitting there going, I am so utterly bored by everything happening in this movie.
Yeah, you know, there's some things in these movies that are just old, like to the
Yeah,
games they play when they gamble sometimes, very
yeah,
classic games. To, you know, it's just 1983 and we're still talking about circuses being relevant, like maybe Barnum and Bailey, like was big at the time. I remember seeing Barnum and Bailey when
Yeah.
I was a young kid, but like circuses are not really a thing anymore. And even
No.
like those traveling acrobats and stuff like that's not really a thing. Like you get like Shen Yu from China, but like I don't know. Like it's just it's weird, but point maybe it's just you can relate more for the time, even though I still feel like this is 20 years too late for the plot point.
Oh, it is. It absolutely it doesn't make sense in the context. It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense out of context. It's just this weird thing where they're like, "Let's have a circus in here for a different set of set pieces," which if you're going to do that, you need to unify it to the plot better instead of just having some of the circus performers are evil for reasons. Like the
Yeah.
KGB sitting there going, "Who can we make defect to our side?" You know what? Circus people. Like,
No, nobody suspects the circus.
right? It's like in a different context, you'd expect this in a Monty Python skit, not in a
Yeah.
James Bond
Like,
movie.
seriously, right? Like the Ministry of like Funny Bond over here, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. It was just weird, but I mean,
it
I
was
guess
so
you're trying
weird.
to show like athletic people with the, I don't know. I don't know. It's
Ah,
just weird.
it's a real step down from the Winter Olympics, which itself was a step down from having already done that like twice before in previous Bond
Right.
movies. I don't know.
And it's
What
like they rolled a dice like or played Mad Libs. Like let's do Bond through Mad Libs. Like
spin
give
the
me any
wheel? What's the
yeah.
plot point to come up today?
Winner. Let's make it happen. Like
Right.
uh,
Oh well. So yeah, it's really dumb. It's a dumb movie from start to finish. It even starts bad. Like Bond goes to thwart a Cuban something. So he
mm,
sneaks onto a military base with a fake horse in a cart so that he can then dress up like with a reversible costume, dress up like one of the Cuban officers and blow something up that they're working on. And then he's almost immediately caught because Bond is an idiot. And his whole plan is stupid. But he manages to escape, get into the back of his cart with like the fake horse, and the fake horse opens up to reveal a mini jet. And I'm like, what are we even doing here? This is how did this make it like no one thought to look when they were checking security at the fake horse ass? Like what
this is
is this?
I don't know. AI wrote this 40 years ago. I have no idea what we're looking
It's
at that point. It's so
like it only
weird.
works in the context of the silly Roger Moore era,
Yes.
which would have
Yeah.
been better if we had just had For Your Eyes Only right beforehand. This from Moonraker, I buy. This from Your
Yeah.
Eyes Only, I don't.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
from your eyes only, like the campiness of Blowfield was kind of funny. It's like they felt like they had to up the ante for this one and do
yeah.
something else crazy. Like before the movie starts, Bond needs to do something wild and like what kind of crazy gadget can we give him to get out of here? And like, I got it, a horse's ass that turns into a rocket. Like perfect. Like
Why not?
yeah.
Spin that wheel, see what else comes up.
I know, right? It's just crazy.
We go from that into the Bond theme song for the day, All Time High, which I think was written by the same people who wrote the previous one, and it is, to be fair, as boring as the previous one.
Yeah, yeah, not very good, not very good.
No. You know what, at this point, bring back Wings. Come on, I would rather listen
Yeah,
to them with their shit than All Time
agreed, yeah,
High. So
yeah, yeah,
bad. So
I
bad.
know.
We
Mm,
got Agent 009, who was dressed as a clown at the circus to infiltrate, which he somehow has the Fabergé egg from the circus, which, in the context of the rest of the movie, also doesn't make much sense. Like, the plotting to get there is really back-assward, and it's
mhm,
basically 009 was there just so that we could get the Fabergé egg to get that to Bond. If you try and
yeah,
piece backwards to how this all happened, it doesn't make any sense within the plot of the movie whatsoever. But he's
mhm.
there, and he's dressed as a clown running through the woods, and you're sitting there going, it's really hard to be stealthy when you're dressed like a clown.
I mean, and at least you're trying to blend in, I guess. You are at the circus, but
But not anymore, and now you're out in the woods running from knife throwers. It's
I mean, yeah, I mean, you might as well be running with a target on your head or something. Like, I
yeah.
don't get it.
Big shoes flapping, honky nose going, you're just like,
That reminds me of like I was younger, tangent real quick, but
yeah,
like my stepdad used to have like a book of police stories or whatever. I remember, and it had the guy got caught stealing, and he couldn't figure out because he kept out running the cops, like how he couldn't get away from them. It's because he had those fucking like LA lights in his shoes, and they just kept following the shoes.
right.
Like it was like that kind of level of stupid. Like, how do they keep finding me? You look like a fucking clown in the middle of like the woods. Like,
The
what do you
brightly
think?
colored, yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
god. You try to hide behind a tree and your shoes stick out. Like, yeah, come
yeah,
on. Yeah,
yeah.
no, no.
Anyway,
Bond, once he knows the plan and he has the egg and he's following the villain and following the whole plan of this because
mhm,
he sees the villain at the auction house where he swaps the eggs. He then goes and confronts the villain, and the villain immediately knows who Bond is because
yeah,
Bond's the worst secret agent ever. And they get into a pissing match over competitive backgammon, which
right.
is nowhere near as interesting as Baccarat, and Baccarat wasn't that interesting to begin with.
No, it wasn't. And again, it's a game I don't understand that I'm watching old people play.
Yeah, he somehow catches the bad guy, Khan, out cheating at backgammon. I'm like, we already did this with Goldfinger like 8
Yeah.
movies ago, and it was way more interesting back then when he was cheating at Rummy. This is
Yeah.
a bad game. At least we all understand Rummy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a game you play when you're bored and have cards and just need something
Yeah.
to do because Rummy's easy.
Mhm.
Backgammon is stupid.
Yeah, it
Sorry.
definitely is interesting.
Sorry to all you backgammon fans, but you know it's true.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't even really see that in a lot of casinos anymore, and if it's there, I never see people playing it.
No. No, well, it's because it's a head-to-head game and the house has to take its take. It's not nearly as interesting as
Yeah,
poker anymore.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you were talking about the racism, and it's true. We have the whole
Yeah.
sequence in India with the snake charmer, the man meditating on bedded nails, the sword
Uh-huh.
swallower. It's all feels very racist. It's like they had a chart of every trope that they could do, and they're like, let's hit all of them.
Yeah, I mean, hit every Indian racist thing we could possibly think of that we
Yeah.
can walk. It
So
was
bad.
like I mean, I've seen better walkthroughs in Indiana Jones going through places that are more less racist than this, and he spends a lot of time in that area. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
it was really bad. And
Mm.
then of course we get a chase sequence through the whole Indian marketplace that's more comedic than action packed. And you're just sitting there going, "What movie are we watching?" When people complain about the silliness of the Roger Moore era, it feels
Mhm.
like it's distilled right down into
Yeah.
Octopussy.
That's like ground zero for what people could say about
Yeah.
this being just campy and weird. Is just watch this sequence and
Mhm.
it just says it all.
Yeah, you want to talk about the good of the Roger Moore era, you go to For Your Eyes Only. You want to talk about the
Yeah.
bad, you can just point to this sequence in Octopussy and the clown costumes, and everyone's sitting there going, "No, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, I get it."
Yeah.
The Bond girl and villain henchwoman is Magda, played by
Mhm.
Christina Wayborn, who was 23 at the time of the film's release. And bear in mind, Roger Moore at this point was 2 years older. He's not just old enough to be her parent, he's clearly old enough now to be her grandparent. If it was like
Yeah.
18 and then 18, the
Yeah.
math is bad.
Yeah, it really is. Like
No.
it's and credit to Roger Moore, at least across these films, he doesn't come off as the rapey, creepy Bond, but it is definitely
Not
creepy to see a 50-year-old man with a 20-year-old woman.
not here,
Mhm.
but yeah, we'll get to that. She does also have the terrible line when he asks about her octopus tattoo, and she goes, "That's my little octopussy." And I'm like, no one can make that line sound good. No
No,
one.
no.
No. It like the film tries to explain away eventually because that octopus tattoo is the symbol of the main heroine, who's
Mhm.
named Octopussy for reason. She says that's my dad's pet name for me, and I'm like, did you and your dad have a relationship we shouldn't be talking about?
Yeah, no, he's just really into cats, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm guessing he saw Goldfinger was like pussy galore. I can work with that. No,
Yeah,
that's all around. That's a terrible name and a terrible explanation for a terrible name. Not
right.
no. Maud Adams did play Octopussy, and she was
Mhm.
38 at the time of filming, so much closer to Bond's age at that point. I'm
Yeah.
willing to accept that pairing more so. It's also interesting because she is one of the only actresses to play two different full-fledged Bond girls in movies. Because she was also
Mm.
Andrea Anders over in The Man with the Golden Gun.
Interesting.
So yeah, she got brought back because apparently they liked her.
Mhm.
I don't think they gave her anything to do in this film, though. She's
Guess not.
wasted. She's
Yeah.
just as wasted here as she was in The Man with the Golden Gun, and I feel bad for her. While Bond is escaping from the villains, he does a very stupid Tarzan yell while swinging from vines, and I'm sitting there going, "What is this movie even?"
Exactly what you think it is at this point, just a
Exactly
bad
what you
movie.
think it is. And while we're discussing Octopussy, the Roger Moore era started poorly when it came to treatment of women. We thought he was doing better all the way up through Magda, and then he forces himself on Octopussy, the one pairing that actually made sense. And you're like, she was actually into you, dude. You didn't have to force yourself onto her. And yet
Yeah.
he did.
I don't know. Maybe he felt more comfortable about the age difference in this one, but I don't know why they did that. That
No,
bothers the hell out of me when you point it out again. Like it was very easily there was some chemistry between him, so let's just have him rape her, I guess. I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah, I could explain away the relationship he had with Domino, as that movie was supposed to be a Sean Connery movie that they then
Mhm,
just inserted Roger Moore into. After that
mhm,
film, Roger Moore's characters were doing just fine with women. He didn't like to sleep with the really young ones, he tried to treat the other ones with respect. And then
mhm.
we get to Octopussy, and for some reason, he falls back into Sean Connery standards, and I don't even know why they did that.
I don't know. Very confusing, but I mean,
Yeah,
here we
no.
are. Here we are.
56 years old for more at this point. He really wasn't built for action anymore.
Mm.
After he deals with Octopussy, he then tries to go and track down the bomb, and he gets into this whole chase sequence on a train, and they have to work their level best to even make it look halfway interesting, because it's really not, because 56-year-old Roger Moore was not built for this.
No, no. Clearly, the limitations of physicality are here,
Yep.
and you can see the twilight is coming on the Roger Moore era. Which, I mean, at this point, say what you want about that.
Yeah, he probably should have retired 2 or 3 movies ago, and
Mhm.
instead we still get one more adventure with him after that, where even he's sitting there going, "Guys, I'm too old. What are you thinking? If I was Bond's age, Bond would have retired by now."
You would think, right? Leave this is a
Yeah,
young man's game at this point.
yeah, no, it's bad. The nuke makes it to the base. We see the timer. It has 5 minutes on it. Bond knows it's going to go off at any second. So the thing he does to get onto the base is sneak into a clown wagon and put on the full costume and makeup. And you're sitting there
Yeah.
going, this would take longer than 5 minutes to put this costume on, let alone then get to the nuclear bomb, guy.
It's so funny because, like, I used to watch a lot of TLC with my wife when we were dating back in the day because she loved to watch that, and there was always, like, those, that Say Yes to the Dress shows or everything
Yeah.
she would watch, and they always talked about, like, for the lady, you need, like, your 5-minute face, like, what can you go out of the house with a 5-minute face, and, like, this guy gets the 5-minute face of full-ass clown makeup, and I'm like, "Jesus."
Like, did you just have a mold that you could just slap your face
I
into and
know.
pull out? Like,
It's
there is
crazy.
no way. Just putting the white grease paint down alone takes longer than 5 minutes. And they're like,
Yeah,
we did all this and a costume, and he still gets there with like a minute and a half to spare. No,
yeah,
nah.
yeah,
Like him running up 10 flights of steps in the previous movie, this is what broke my suspension of disbelief in Octopussy. That just could not happen.
yeah, agreed. There's a lot of, like, liberty with time and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like, timers in these movies tick a lot faster.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when it was in Goldfinger, that nuke was ticking pretty fast, yet there was still quite a bit of time left every time they flash back to it. So it happens, but this was just really bad.
This was unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's the whole end sequence with the circus performers working for Octopussy. Not the bad ones, the good ones, because apparently
Mhm.
not only does she invest in them, but she just trains them, which is more than she said before. They invaded Khan's compound, and it doesn't work, because most of them are not built for this kind of action, only to
Uh-huh.
then have Bond come riding into the sunset to save everyone on a hot air balloon. And I'm like, movie, please.
What an
You
interesting mode of transportation he chose for this. Very discreet.
Very discreet, very fast, very easy to get in. Like, I don't even know. I did appreciate all the women swooning for Q afterwards, and he's like, I don't have time for this. Maybe later.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
later.
yeah,
I'm like, oh, Q, you're great. And it's a pity that this movie is so fucking stupid. Because
yeah.
that core kernel of KGB having a rogue faction, trying to steal a bomb and sneak it onto a base to cause an explosion that would then force all of NATO to de-arm and force them to turn their back on the United States. That's an actually good idea. That's a really solid plot point. That
Mhm.
they emphasize near the end of the movie when they finally decide to explain everything. But hour and a half, hour 45 minutes of this movie doesn't really relate to that, and they waste a good idea on a terrible movie.
Yeah, I mean, very much so. Disappointing.
It's so disappointing. So yeah, Octopussy is definitely one of the worst of the Roger Moore era, which then makes it one of the worst of the like James Bond series in general, which is a tragedy because you proved in the previous film you guys could make a good one.
Yeah, you had it in you, and then you just decided to not even throw the B team at this movie. Like, it was just a convoluted grouping of ideas. It was almost like Bond on Mad Libs, like I
Yeah.
said. Like, it's
Yeah, it
just a
is.
whole bunch of shit thrown
Yeah,
together.
you spin the wheel every time you have a new plot point. It reminds me of Kevin Smith said that when he was writing Red State, which is seemingly out of nowhere for this, but still, when he was
Mhm,
writing Red State, he'd write like a chunk of the movie and then he'd pass it to a friend. And whenever the friend said he expected a plot point, Kevin Smith would then do a left turn with the story and take it in a different direction. And that's why
mhm.
Red State is such a weird movie that goes from like horror movie to compound to like almost the end of the world Judgment Day by the end of it. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it. It's a weird movie and kind of dumb, but it's like Kevin Smith did this thing. This feels
Yeah.
like that. Every time the movie is supposed to zig, it zags, and they spin a wheel to see what the next dumb plot point is that they can go to, and they
Mhm.
just don't let the movie sit. It just keeps
No,
moving, which, K, but it doesn't hold together at all.
it does not. No, it's just a lot of ideas that are never really coming together, and it doesn't even like keep you guessing. It just keeps you confused.
Yeah,
And I was
very
not a
confusing.
fan of that. Yeah.
No.
Again, the 2 hours plus of this. Sometimes these movies feel a lot longer than they should be. Like you said, this is a plot that, look, while non-existent for the most part, is very easily done in a lot less time.
Yeah. No, this could have been a half-hour episode of James Bond Jr., and it probably wouldn't have been any worse than what we actually got right here.
No, it might have even been better if it was shorter. Put this on the BBC on Saturday morning or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put it on Climax on CBS.
Find it on BritBox.
Oh, well, at least we got one good movie in the Roger Moore era that we can actually
We
point
did.
to and be like, "This was good. Roger Moore has it in him. He's not the problem with these films. It's everything
Yeah.
around him."
Yeah, quality acting from Roger Moore,
Yep.
is at least there for the most part,
Yep.
and he's professional,
He
so
is.
good on him. But I mean, we're getting to where Bond starts getting better at some points, and
At
I
some
can't
point.
wait to get there.
No, if I will say anything about this, it's that this rewatch through all these movies that I did has given me a greater appreciation for Roger Moore's Bond. It's given
Yes,
me a worse opinion of his films, but I actually like him as Bond a lot more than I used to.
I agree with that, and
Yeah,
he is the consummate professional through all the movies. While he is not the best spy at times with some of the things they have him do, and he doesn't have some of the best one-liners, and there's some goofy shit. He's at least a good actor that doesn't
he
just phone it
tries.
in.
He
You
tries
know,
so hard to save this film and every film he's in.
Connery was done at the end of
Yeah,
his run, and you could just tell he was getting drunk on set. Like he's not going in without vodka. Like you could tell.
no,
So, I
no.
mean, at
Roger Moore
least
did not
more.
phone it in.
Yes. So you got to give him at least that.
Yeah, I
And
know. I credit to him. I don't hate him. I just hate his movies, and I feel bad about that because he deserved better.
he did, and
Yeah,
it shows the weakness of some of the writing here by a mile.
yeah, it does. Oh well, we have one more of his set to do before we are free of him, and he is
Mhm.
free of this whole fucking series.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
View to a Kill comes next, and it's the one where even he was kind of done. And
Yeah.
then finally, we'll get into the Dalton era and get out to the point where the Bond films actually slowly start to get better.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I have fond memories of the two Timothy Dalton
mhm,
movies, so I'm excited to watch them again.
people like him. They say he's darker, he's more interesting. We'll see when we get there, but we still have to get through one Roger Moore before we get to that.
Yeah, at least it's only one next time. We don't gotta pull the double header again because woof, these are getting old pretty
It's
quick.
getting real bad. Ah,
Yeah.
well. This has been Not So Live from Asteroid G, not talking about our own little Octopussy. I'm your host, Mike Finkelstein.
Your buddy Mike the Ghoul gonna not try to double cross his buddy in the next films.
See you all next time.